Hello, and welcome to Minority Opinions Podcast. It's your famous co host, Ricardo.
And I'm your less famous co host, Hito.
We're going to talk about a little film called Midsommar, and then Hito is going to go a little bit in depth about his views on Stranger Things Season 3. And then we're going to top it off with a lovely controversial film called Spring Breakers by Harmony Korine.
So let's start with Midsommar, right? That's how you pronounce it.
Of course. Speaking of that, Hito, you and I, we both saw Hereditary, right?
Yeah, I saw Hereditary when it first came out. I thought I loved it, and then I saw it again, and I realized, you know what? This was kind of disappointing. And you feel the same way, right?
Yeah, I saw it in January. I saw it December 31st, and I watched it till midnight of January. I don't know why I remember that, but
Jesus.
I just remember watching it and thinking, why is there why? Because do you remember the huge wave of reviews that came in like, oh, it's the scariest movie since The Exorcist. Like they always use that. Like,
Yeah.
and you could argue like, oh, what's really scary? It's like, okay, you could argue like some people are more scared than others, but I just thought that movie was like it wasn't as scary as I thought people were hyping it or anticipating it to be. So Midsummer talks about a couple, bit on the couple's kind of like on the rocks right now. Like they established in the movie that like they've been together for 4 years, but it's been like a super weak relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's say an outside event in the main woman's role in the movie, something happens to her where the boyfriend kind of invites her to this festival to kind of like heal in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decide to go to this midsummer festival in Sweden. And from then on, I really can't talk about anything else because then that's when everything starts going pretty wacky. And Hito, let me tell you this: this is a great first date movie. I say that very carefully.
Okay, because
When I left the theater, I had ideas of like relationship ideas. Like this movie is about couples and relationships and like dating.
mm-hmm.
And it's definitely a movie where if you watch the movie and one of the couples are like, "Oh my god, this is us," and you should look at them and be like, "I think we should break up." Like it's like it's a movie you watch with your significant other to test their thinking process. Do you catch me? Like,
Yeah, of course.
I think it's because like story wise, without revealing too much, like you kind of learn a lot about these two characters. Like there's a woman and then there's a boyfriend, and this movie focuses a lot on three types of ideas. There's a lot of moments in the movie where like there's like tiny conversations that are awkward.
Mm-hmm.
And almost like those awkward family events where like you find out one of your family members has like a weird racist ideas or like, oh yeah, like this and that, and you're just like, Uncle Poppy, like what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, and like it's like super awkward. Or like when you go to a restaurant and you have a family member who's like, oh, can I get a new plate? And they're like kind of being rude to the waiter, and you really can't say anything because they're your family member. You don't want to make a
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
There's a lot of those moments in this movie where the script is fantastic for this film. Like a lot of the writing felt awkward in a
Mm-hmm.
good way. Where when you hear them talk, you're like, "Oh, please be quiet. Don't say that, please. Oh God." And that builds more and more the tension in the movie. Like you feel like awkward and just you feel so not uncomfortable. There's a lot of uncomfortable scenes where the couple is arguing, and there's other side characters too, and they also argue, and they make the scene more awkward. So you combine that with this movie uses a lot of long takes.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every scene is a instant long take where those awkward conversations are happening.
Would you say this is a scary movie?
Wouldn't necessarily call it scary. I didn't think it was scary that much, but there's definitely imagery where after you see it, it's just stuck in your head. And I was on my way home and I thought like, damn, that's some pretty messed up stuff I saw right now. Like I was thinking about a lot of it. I was like, how do they film that? Why do they show that? Oh, I feel gross and nasty, and I wish I didn't see that.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think it's a step up from Hereditary, which kind of I don't know. Hereditary didn't really. I didn't. It didn't click for me. I definitely love this movie a lot more than Hereditary. I wasn't. It the runtime is 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Oof.
Yeah, and it definitely flies by. There was a part in the third act it felt a bit slow to me,
Mm-hmm.
but I understood why Aster added to the movie. But it's definitely a movie you need to be a little bit patient with, where it's not like cheap horror films where like Pennywise jumps at you and screams at you every 5 minutes. Like no, it's like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it takes its time to build the dread, and it's almost like a Jack in the Box. Like it just keeps like turning and turning and turning, and then when the crazy thing happens, bam, it shows you it. This movie does a lot better than what I thought Hereditary did, and I wish more people were watching it than Hereditary, because Hereditary it looks like more like the typical horror film, like spooky family haunted house, like or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas Midsommar is like, oh, festival during the day. Well, I'm like, go see that. It's a little bit more creative. It's a little bit more inventive than
Mm.
Hereditary, because it does use like. Here's the thing about the movie. I wasn't sure if some of the traditions in the film were actual Swedish cult
Mm.
customs. So then there
Mhm.
is that sense like it's not the idea of like, oh, I hate that culture. It's more like, is that a real thing, or and should I be scared of it? Because if you don't know something about a certain thing, you're gonna feel a bit uneasy about it. And I think
Right.
Aster chose this culture because even though most people know like the stereotypical, like, oh, they get free healthcare, education, not a lot of people know a lot about Swedish culture.
I know it's based on the pagan rituals.
If it's real, then I'm shocked.
Okay.
I'm pretty shocked if that was real. That makes it even more creepy.
Okay. Do you think I will like this? And keep in mind that I didn't like Hereditary that much. I love the Babadook, and I also didn't like the new Suspiria remake.
I think you'll like it. I feel like the topics and themes will reach out to you more, maybe. And unlike
Because I have fucked up relationships.
exactly,
Mm.
yeah, you're gonna walk out of that thinking, you know what, I'm a good guy, and then just go back home, and drink some matcha liquor. But overall, I really liked it. When I first left, I felt I felt a bit concerned about it. I was like, do I like it? And then it's a lot to take in at one moment.
Mm-hmm.
But then as you digest it more and more, you just and you pick out little things here and there that you kind of notice. You're thinking like, that movie is well constructed. Speaking of horror, actually,
Uh-huh.
and spooky stuff,
Uh-huh.
Hito, I've heard you watching a little show. It's a little indie show. Not a lot of people have seen it.
Yeah, it's a very obscure show called Stranger Things Season 3. Very obscure. No one
Oh.
really heard about it.
Season 3, wow, I've only seen the first two. It's so indie.
This season takes place about a year after the events of Season 2, and Mike and Eleven are a thing now, and Lucas and Maxine are also a thing now, and Dustin comes back from this camp, and now he has a girlfriend in Utah. Will is kind of coping with his past experiences, the being possessed by the mind flayer or whatever. And then Steve works at Scoop Ahoy. Scoop, is that how you call it? Scoop Ahoy?
Scoop Ahoy ice cream,
Yeah.
USS Butterscotch.
Yeah, Scoop Ahoy ice creams with this very cool new character called Robin, played by Maya Hawks, who is the child, who's the daughter of Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's kind of crazy. Wait, Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke are married?
Yeah, they were married from like 95 to like 2005 or something.
Oh, and they had a kid?
Yeah, they have like 2 kids. One of them is
wow.
her. The main plot of the film revolves around Maxine's racist brother.
Is he really racist?
He was racist in the second season. Like,
I legit don't remember.
there's a scene where he tells Max that, after hanging out with Lucas or something. When Max was hanging out with Lucas,
Oh.
he, has this lecture about you don't hang out with those people. There are two kinds of people in this world. Like it's us or them, something like that. And it's like, oh God, this character is a racist. So yeah, this racist character gets possessed by the Mind Flayer, and yeah, basically, it's if you have seen this show, it's basically like the rehash of the previous seasons. Somebody gets possessed by this being, and then they try to wreak havoc in this small town, and these kid characters and David Hopper, and Joyce, right? Winona Ryder, Joyce.
Yeah.
They try to stop them. And if you like that shit, you're going to have fun with this season. I had a good time with this season. I thought it was fun. It takes a while to get going. I would say the first 3 episodes are pretty slow, mostly because they're used to set up the conflict, show us what's at stake. But after episode 4, it gets so much better. And I would say the last 2 episodes are by far the best episodes in the entire show. It's exciting. It gets pretty emotional. Some characters die. It flew by real quick. I love what the show does with like each season. There are only like 8 episodes each season, and it's great. It's just I don't like TV shows that go on for like, I don't know, 13 or 24 episodes because I just don't have time for it. So I will say, without giving away too much, 11 has several badass moments. Dustin really shines. And by far the best things in this season, well, 2 best things in this season are Maya Hawke and this girl who plays Erica. I can't remember her name. Erica is Lucas's sister, sassy sister. They are by far the best parts of this show, this season. Especially Erica. I thought she was so funny. She was hilarious. Have you gotten to the part where she gets really?
I found her very annoying.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not. When she's acting really sassy to them at the ice cream place, like asking for free samples, that just triggered like a bunch of flashbacks at my works, and I'm like, I would hate this customer so much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand. I had a good time with this season. I'd be happy if they decided to cancel the show like after this season, because it ends on a pretty strong note. And with certain character dying, I thought it wrapped up some character arcs. I hope they do something completely different with season 4, because, like I said, these 3 seasons, the story beats of these 3 seasons have been the same, revolve around the same characters, and it always ends with these kids going against a giant monster. And there's government conspiracy. I'm getting tired of it. So I hope season 4 takes these characters to different places. And now onto the feature presentation of this episode.
Today's double feature is Spring Breakers by Harmony Korine.
Yeah, spring break, bitches. So this is kind of a controversial film for some people, and I have a funny story. I'll be quick, but I saw this movie when it first came out back in 2013.
Damn, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. And I wasn't gonna go see this movie originally, but one of my friends / acquaintances, we don't talk very much nowadays, but back in my high school, there was this girl named Naomi. Hi, Naomi. How's it going? I hope you're doing well in China. Miss you, babe. And she knew I loved movies. We were in the same dance class, and she came in and she grabbed me and she said, "Dude, have you seen this movie called Spring Breakers?" And I was like, "No, and I never heard of it." don't watch it. Just don't watch it. Stay away from it. It's so bad. It's awful. And I was like, okay, I'm going to check it out. So I went to see the movie on that day. Like, as soon as Naomi said this movie is so bad, a couple hours later, I was already in a movie theater watching Spring Breakers. And there were like 4 other people in the auditorium. And I loved this movie so much. So I reported back to Naomi saying, that movie was awesome. And she's like, you were dead to me. The story of this movie goes, 4 college girls go to Florida to have a spring break. Spring break just full of drugs, booze, and sex, parties, just nonstop partying in Florida. And they get arrested one day.
I think they get recovered by a rapper named Alien. Is his name Alien? And then basically they get involved with the shenanigans, and one by one, each girl has a different experience with James Franco, and then more and more chaos starts to unravel throughout the film.
Yeah.
And it's just like a train wreck waiting to happen, and you're watching it slowly go faster and faster.
Yeah. I think I've seen this movie several times since 2013, and I'll say this right off the bat. I fucking love this movie, and I think everyone should watch it. Like, in the same way that you described Midsommar as the first date movie, I think Spring Breakers is like a perfect first date movie for me. I think it's a good, like, a cultural litmus test to see if your potential significant other can handle or can think about what's happening. Because one of the criticism that this film got was, it's just like a sexist movie about, teen girls partying, and the camera literally glides over their boobs and asses. And a lot of people think that that's what this film endorses. Just, hey, let's objectify women. Let's treat them like eye candies. I think there is more to it than I think there is more to what this film is trying to say. Like, there is so much to unpack. There are so many ideas in this that I think not many people are seeing or trying to see.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think people are usually remembering the visuals, like the partying and the drinking. But then if you look behind the lives of each of these women, they all have a unique story that kind of explains why. I feel like with this movie, like, each character, like, because I Googled where the festival took place, like, supposedly where it took place.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes place in the most conservative part of Florida. And then the beginning of the movie, you have the characters in church school, private church school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this movie talks about, it's almost empowering in a sense, because we have these women who want to escape the world of, like, religious figures. And remember the beginning of the movie, they're in the school and they're all lined up, kind of like a 1984 kind of scene where they're looking at computers, and it's like, oh, today we're learning about slavery, and they're like, oh god, this world's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of just want to escape and kind of like just let loose from the world every once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why they attend this festival, because they want to, like, have a little break from life, like, we all do. And I wouldn't necessarily call this movie sexist, but definitely a feminist film.
I have met a couple of women who said the movie is sexist and misogynist, and I don't argue with them. I do disagree with them, but if they feel that way, that's fine, and I'm not going to try to argue with that because I'm not a woman. This movie, for the most part, is a commentary on media, and specifically like MTV and Instagram and the fame-obsessed culture. I think the movie is a critique of those things, and the way these characters act is not because they want to act like this. It's because all this media they consume tell them that, hey, here's how you should act, here's how you get men, here's how you seduce, all these things, and that's what all these behaviors come from. And I think so many people took it as like, oh my God, this movie doesn't understand women. It's like, no, this movie is commenting on how the society, the pop culture, influence young people's lives and behaviors, and this anti-intellectual um, movements. You know what I mean?
It seems like this movie, it's commenting on a topic that's kind of like sensitive itself,
Mm-hmm.
and depending how you watch it, the director has to be really careful to make sure that they're not going overboard.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have to like leave some hints, like, "Hey, that's not what I really mean. I actually mean this." It's an easy film to misinterpret. I think.
Yeah, I think it's clear where Harmony Korine stands on these issues. Like I do think he comes from a very conservative place, and he is saying that, hey, you got to think about all these things, what these young people are doing, and this, fame obsessed, just vapid, materialist culture that these people are living in. But one of the things I like about this film is that the movie itself doesn't judge these people. One of the things that James Franco represents is the American dream, right? The wealth and also the cultural appropriation. This white people wanting to be a black person. Harmony Korine is trying to make us think, hey, what do you think about this character? And what do you think about these girls and how their relationship work and their power dynamic? And there is never a point where I thought James Franco's character was forcing these girls to do things that they didn't want to do. Like I've always felt that those girls are always in power, always in charge of their action, their decisions. It's not James Franco. He's not really influencing their action. That's why I do think this movie is feminist, because of how the film treats these four girls.
I think you're right, and there's definitely one scene I'm thinking about where there's two women who take control. Basically, they kind of put James Franco into his place with the power dynamic used with guns. James Franco submit power to them. Let's just say that.
Yeah, yeah,
You should check the movie, and you'll know definitely what we're talking about.
yeah. I think one of the things this film is trying to do is have thoughts. Like, this movie is trying to provoke you, and if you don't find this unsettling or infuriating, or if you don't get grossed out by some of the things you see, I think you gotta really look beyond the surface, because I think Harmony Korine is trying to make you think about things that's going on in our culture. Well, in the world, in the young people's world.
I definitely agree with you where this film, takes place during spring break. There's like I'm pretty sure it's an American ideal, but like a lot when young people travel to go get hammered and wasted and smoke and have endless amounts of sex, when you're young, you usually think about that, but there's a reason why old people think like, oh, be careful and stuff. In this film, I think it kind of serves like a cautionary tale.
Yeah, definitely a cautionary tale.
I'm saying American ideals because I don't really see that happen that much. I don't see this ideology with like in other countries. And this movie, it makes some of the visuals were like when people are shotgunning beers or like smoking a ton. In moderation, that's fine. I'm in college. I understand that ideology, but there is some techniques when it uses like slow motion and the hyper saturation of pinks and blues. It definitely feels grimy and nasty. That kind of tells you like, hey, excessive behavior isn't the best behavior when you're young like that. It's telling you to be careful.
There are also some, how do I say this, socio-political themes in this. Maybe I'm stretching it, but I've read some papers where people talk about, hey, this you got to think about these things. I think one of them is white privilege. These white characters do things to other people and get away with it. Like if it's like black people or other racial minorities, that's not going to happen. But these girls and Alien somehow find a way to commit all these obscene things and just, be freed from it.
It definitely has a lot of ideas. Like, I wouldn't say it's a spoiler, but the way these girls get their money is through a robbery,
Yeah.
and they definitely almost idolize it in a sense. Like the way Harmony films it, it seems almost fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And that's also the way that robbery scene is done is sort of commenting on how robbery is done in media, right? Like in pop culture, movies and TV shows, sort of glamorizes this horrific thing.
it's kind of like a reflection of like how we I keep saying we Americans, but like you're just over there like, hey, hello in Japanese. Like,
I mean, I have experienced a bit of American culture, so
it's a bit excessive over here.
yeah, it is.
And definitely there's a lot of those socio-political ideas. It's like, oh, if this character was this ethnicity, then what would that cause in the story? Like, would it be the same? Would it not be the same? What if Alien was a different race? Like, there's a lot of topics and themes, like how could a person's identity affect the story in this particular setting? Do you think this movie is a good film to write about? Maybe think about a little bit more, like just kind of sit down and talk about it with your friends?
Yeah, absolutely. You like I said, you gotta look at this thing beyond the surface because again, there is so much to unpack. I don't think the movie endorses these behaviors or these ideals.
Definitely not.
Yeah. I think that's where people sort of misunderstand. I want to ask your take on this.
What's up?
So, some people said that Selena Gomez's character is racist.
What?
What? Yeah.
How?
So the event, not the event, but I guess the thing that makes her leave Florida seems to be, from the way the movie is done and from like other people's perspective, is because all of a sudden she gets surrounded by these, African American characters, right? Like the gangs and mobs and people who do drugs. And she was fine when she was with the, other people on spring break. But once she was in that situation, surrounded by all these African American folks, she suddenly feels this fear and wants to get away from it. Some people have argued that, and I want to know what your take on it.
I definitely didn't see it that way because I think she felt more comfortable in like the spring break area because, she paid money to stay in a hotel. She kind of knows like everybody's kind of the same age as her. She knows they're all teenagers like her. They're all trying to have fun. But definitely when she goes to like that, I think, is it even like a clubhouse? Is it even like a bar? Like where did the group go?
It looked like a warehouse.
Yeah.
Like somebody's garage or something.
That's a bit more sketchy because she doesn't know the owner. She definitely doesn't know these people who, they're clearly not students or like spring breakers. And, Alien is already kind of sketchy to her. Like they were half naked when they left jail. So she feels a bit exposed.
Yeah.
So then Alien didn't even make it work. He made it worse. He's like, oh, you want to come with me and like party a bit? It's like, okay, I don't know where I'm going. The women, they feel a bit vulnerable to this creepy ass gangster guy. I definitely would understand why she would want to leave that, like just for her own safety. Like she feels sketched out.
Yeah. That's how I interpret it as well. She had more problems with Alien rather than the African American folks.
Yeah, it's definitely a situation where it feels understandable why a person half naked, who is definitely a woman who feels very scared of the unknown. I understand why she would feel that way. See, there's so much about the movie to talk about,
It's a great first date movie.
It's the perfect first date movie.
If this movie doesn't make your significant other think or have thoughts, you gotta dump them. Like if you're dating a man, and if a man reacts like, "Oh my god, boobs and asses and sexy girls, oh my god,"
I love this.
yeah, dump him on the spot. If you were dating a woman who acts like, "Oh my god, this is so boring," and just staring at cell phones and texting her besties or whatever, and just and if you ask her, her opinions on the film, and she says, that was whatever, dump her on the spot, even without thinking about all these, themes and messages, which you should. But even without, looking at it through those things, I think you can watch it as an entertainment too. I mean, this is an art house film, but this also works as a black comedy. It's part gangster movie. It revolves around events and things that aren't necessarily realistic. So you can sort of detach yourself from, this world and just look at it as a piece of entertainment as well. What do you think?
I definitely agree with that. Like it's a movie where if you want to have a little thinking session, you could just watch it and try to pick apart each scene and like why it's placed there and such. But it's also, I'm not saying it's dumb enough, but it's dumb enough to just watch it and like kind of like and just enjoy the craziness and the chaotic world, thinking like, wow, I wish I wasn't there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the performances are amazing.
They're all pretty solid. I legit believe that James Franco is a creepy, disgusting rapper.
Yeah, this might be my favorite performance of his.
Not the Disaster Artist?
No, I'm not a fan of the Disaster Artist.
Oh, different day then.
Yeah, different day. But yeah, I think this character is so out there, and it's funny, and what he does with this character, I think it's really, like, it's hard to forget. A couple more things that I want to talk about, and not necessarily like thematically, just like a stylistic tropes and everything.
Yeah.
The soundtrack, the score, I think is great. Maybe you have a problem with like EDM. I'm not a big fan of EDM either.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a fan of it at all.
Yeah, but this soundtrack, I think, is pure gold. Especially score by Cliff Martinez and Skrillex.
Was it really Cliff Martinez?
Yeah, it was a collaborated score thing. They worked on it together.
Cliff Martinez, of course, the creator of the Neon Demon soundtrack and score.
It's the kind of score that makes you feel like you're just in a dream. You're watching a dream, and even during some horrendous sequences, because of these sort of soothing score, it makes it
kind of cushions it, or like desensitizes it.
I love this movie.
Me too. I mean, I'm Hito probably loves it way more than I do, like more like personally, but it's definitely a film to check out. And it's available on both Netflix and Amazon, I think, right?
I don't know about Amazon, but I know it's available on Netflix. And of course you can buy it on Blu-ray.
Definitely check it out on Netflix though. It's only like an hour and 30 minutes, right?
Yeah, hour and 30 minutes, and it's totally worth it.
And rewatchable if after you watch it once before this you're listening to this podcast. Watch it after this podcast.
Yeah, and ready to have thoughts.
If not, then and try to enjoy the movie. So we got Midsommar, Stranger Things, Beach Bum. Oh, not Beach Bum. Spring Breakers.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. Pretty good review.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think we're gonna talk about next time?
Well, because you are going away,
I'm leaving
for like a week.
I'm leaving for Mexico this week, actually.
Yeah, so I guess our next episode is gonna be happening 2 weeks from now, maybe.
To be TBA. If you want, I'm the promoter on Instagram. If you want to follow me at Ricky Ricardo 987. Wait, Ricky Ricardo _987. Check me out there. Message me and be like, "Oh, I love the podcast," and I'll keep you right updated.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
What should we talk about? I guess in the next episode, we can hear what you think of Stranger Things season 3.
Definitely. And I'm not entirely sure what August's release dates are going to be, or mid-July, I think. Maybe Lion King? I don't know.
I mean, are you gonna watch The Lion King?
I might as well. I have a free AMC thing, so it's like I'm not spending money.
Mm, okay. Well, I'm not seeing it because you guys know how much I don't like Disney live action adaptations.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Whatever.
Aladdin was terrible. Like the more I think about it, the more it pisses me off. Like that movie is terrible.
Maybe Lion King will be different, and I'll come back being all like, "Oh, I love it," or "Hakuna Matata," you know?
Yeah, sure. I'm seeing Toy Story 4 sometime, like in a couple days. So maybe I can,
Give
maybe
us
we
your
can,
lowdown.
yeah, maybe we can like talk some spoilerly things. I like maybe we can discuss the ending. Yeah, so maybe we can do that. And you're gonna give us your thoughts on Stranger Things 3, and I may be able to give my thoughts on the new Makoto Shinkai film. He's the guy who made Your Name a couple of years ago. It was sort of a big hit, both domestically and internationally.
Okay,
His new film is
you'll
his new film is out. So
you'll definitely know a lot more about that than me. So, but review's review.
I just wanted to let the fans of his films know that I'm gonna be giving my thoughts. But yeah.
And that we care.
Okay, so thank you so much for listening to this episode of Minority Opinions podcast. So rate us or give us some 5-star review, 5-star feedback on Google Play and SoundCloud and Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcast, all the other podcast suppliers. We very much appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you guys
Next time.
Yeah, next time.
TBA.
Check out Ricardo's Instagram. I think it was Ricky Ricardo _987.
Yeah, and I'll keep you updated.
Yeah. And I don't have active social media accounts, so don't try to find me.
But Hito, thank you for being a splendid co-host today.
And thank you for being an amazing and fabulous co-host, as always.
And let's say thank you to our fans for listening. And I guess, ta-ta for now. Goodbye.